So a while back I showed y'all the tractor graveyard. Well, also out here we have old vehicles. None of these, I don't think any of them have, well, one of them's got an engine in it, but it's locked up. But that's the only one that's got an engine in it. Well, I'll show you two that have engines in them. Both are locked up. So in the weeds right there, we'll start with this one. This is a mid-80s Isuzu Pup. And the story on this thing is, it was kind of my first off-road vehicle. It's two-wheel drive, and a friend of mine had it. Well, a friend of mine's friend had it, and they used it on a deer lease. And then I had it for quite a while. I fixed it up a little bit. When I got it, it had no brakes on it. I put a master cylinder on it, got good brakes on it, and we used it off-roading. We would take it camping. There's a place nearby that we could drive it to and camp out of it, you know, and just had a lot of fun with it. Later on, after I got a four-wheel drive, this kind of started my, after getting this thing stuck a million times and pulling it out with the come along, I bought a four-wheel drive Chevy Luv 81. My friend bought an 80. The friend that eventually, so a friend of my friends had this, and then my friend got it. And then I bought the 81 Chevy Luv, which body style wise is identical to this 80, you know, mid 80s Isuzu Pup. Identical. And so he bought an 80 Chevy Luv. It's the red one that I still have. I got it from him. And we use those off-roading, and we'd still use this as well. We'd have, you know, if somebody wanted to go along with us, we'd let them take this. And we actually had a tow bar on the front. You can see we got tow bar mounts on it. We would trailer it, and then actually would pull it when we would get close, because you had to pay, the place we would go off-roading, you had to pay parking per vehicle. And so if you could just drive the vehicles that you were gonna ride, it was a lot cheaper than, you know, a bunch of tow vehicles and trailers and then the trucks you were gonna ride, because you paid, you know, if you had, say you had this on a trailer, you were paying for two trucks. And so when we would get close, we would drop off tow vehicle at the thing, hook this up with the tow bar to my Chevy Luv, and I'd pull it down there, and we'd only have to pay for these two trucks. And in his truck, we had a tow bar on his. I could pull it too if I needed to, but because mine was street legal, both of theirs were not, or this one and the other one were not. But anyway, you know, this thing's had a long history. The windshield got busted out of it. Before I got it, they wrecked it into a ditch, busted the windshield out. The alignment was all screwed up. Quite a bit of thing. I've fixed the alignment on it, and you know, we had a plexiglass windshield in it for a while. But they had these huge 31-inch tires on the back. Later on, I put some all-terrains, some like 215/75s on it. And anyway, we had a lot of fun with it. And whenever it would get stuck, you can see I put that front bumper on it. It had no front bumper on it because they wrecked it, like I said. And so I had no front bumper. I put that one on it. It's rusted out a lot now. It used to not be so rusted out. They had trimmed the fender wells for those huge tires. It's full of junk right now because it's going to end up getting scrapped with the scrap that's in it. You can see the rear bumper is just all torn up where we would yank it back out when it would get stuck. the tailgate, as you can tell, is all caved in. We got so tired of pulling this thing out. I had a big brush guard on the front of my Chevy Luv, and I hung a old tire on it, and we would use that tire and push, I'd just pull up to the back of this thing and push it out, so it kind of caved in the tailgate. But it was a lot of fun. When I got the 80 Chevy Luv from my friend, it had a rod knock in it, and the motor that's in the 80 Chevy Luv and what was in my 81 is a Isuzu G180. This truck had an Isuzu G200. G180 was a 1.8 liter. The G200 was 1.9. There's internal differences, but externally they're the same motor. The G200 is just I think it's a little bit bigger bore, and but all the accessories bolt on the same. They look identical. You can swap the heads around. Even the head on a G200, I think, might have bigger chambers and bigger valves. I'm not positive on that. I think that's right. I know there's differences in the heads, but physically the heads will bolt on between the two. Like the motors look identical. It's like they took a G200 or G180 block and just bored it bigger, but you can't bore a G180 that big. They recast it, I'm sure, because that would just be too much boring on the G180 block. But anyway, like I said, the 80 Chevy Luv had a rod knock. I pulled this motor out. I just cut the core support out, pulled it out, and that was the end of this truck. And used the motor in the 80 Luv, and I ended up with a G200. I used the electronic ignition out of here. So all that transferred over to the 80 Chevy Luv is no longer a points truck. It's got electronic ignition from here, and it's got a G200, so it's got a little bit more power than it had stock. It's got a bigger motor, 0.1 liters. So that's that one. Also, when I got the 80 Chevy Luv, my friend had picked up this, I think this is actually a 79, or it may be an 80, but it is another Chevy Luv. It's a long bed, 2-wheel drive, and he had actually bought this one for the radiator, but we used quite a few other parts in it. It's got a G180 still in it that is locked up solid. It's got a busted windshield. It was like that when we got it. It is rotted out. It's got a rotted frame. It's from up north. It even has a block heater. It's the same G180, like I said. This is actually a Mikado, which was a higher trim level. You can see it's got that stripe down it. It's got a fancier steering wheel, but the steering wheel is missing some pieces, or I would swap it over. I think it's missing some of the horn button pieces. It's got a nicer interior. It's got carpeted door panels. You can see how rusty it is. Just an overall, it's got a nicer seat, although this it's not a good, it's in bad shape, but originally it was a nicer seat. Like I said, this one's a long bed. That headache rack, or that rollover bar, originally came out of my 80 Luv. It's just sitting in here, or 81 Luv. It's just sitting in here. I pulled it out, but anyway, this one used a few pieces off of it. I think we used some of the brake stuff off of it. The brake hardware is getting hard to find on these trucks. The not like wheels, you can get wheel cylinders and stuff like that, but any of the hard parts like the adjusters, stuff like that, you really can't find anymore. And so I think we used some of that stuff. And like I said, this one's a 2-wheel drive. It's got a locked up G180. Oh, we used the carburetor off of it too. It was locked up before we even pulled the carburetor off. But we did stuff a rag down and it has stayed covered. Oh, hood. Used the hood off of it. Stuff like that. I think we may have used the grill. It's got people he got it from, they pulled it out of the woods and they messed the bumper up, stuff like that, pulling it out. The rear bumper I think is messed up as well. It had chrome front and rear bumpers. I don't know what these weeds are, but they have like grown up like crazy. Oh, use the tailgate off of it. Yeah, no, it's got a painted rear bumper. But this thing is, it's very rusty. And, you know, in the, the 80s rusted out as well, but this is really rusty. This is a unknown year bump side. It's in the 60s, maybe 70s. It's probably an early, it's the 70s, not 60s. Ford pickup. My cousin, we bought this for he had one as a parts truck, and he had one. We bought this as a parts truck. We ended up using the front clip off of it. We pulled the motor, transmission, used that. This thing has been wrecked really hard on the driver's side. It has a bent frame. The cab has been hit and the bed have been hit on that side. So what's left on it is like it's got a door and I guess a good windshield and this bedside, and that's about it. That's all that's left on this thing. And I think it's full of wasp. But it might have some interior pieces left. It's a long bed step side. And it's also full of scrap. I don't know if I can try to get through to the other side, show you all the damage it has. Man, I don't know what these weeds are. They've grown up so fast. You can see that door's been hit. You can see back in there, the step side. It's like it was side swiped or something, but it does have a bent frame. As far as I'm going to go, but you can see the damage in there. It almost ripped off the spare tire carrier. You can see all that right there, and then that fender well, that step side is crushed in. This thing's just swarming with wasp, and it's all rusted out. Last on the road in '96. Which, crazy enough, when we got this truck, it was probably like '97. It had not been sitting long. And we've got two more. And they are actually on the junk pile. So they're going to be harder to see. But what we've got is two Jeeps. Well, kind of like 2 Jeeps. So if you look, with this tree growing through it, we've got an old Willys, I don't even know, it may be a CJ2A, I don't remember anymore. I think it, just jumping out at me, I think it was a 48. I'm not up and up on my Jeeps, and so a 48, I don't know what model that would be, but I think it was a 48. I do remember. So what I bought this Jeep, no motor, no nothing. I gave a few parts to a friend who had another Jeep, steering box, some stuff like that. But I bought this one just for the axles. The plan was, because the width of the axles was real similar to the 80 Chevy Luv, I was going to solid axle swap the Chevy Luv and use these axles. After getting it, I thought it was a little bit newer than what it was. Turns out it was a little bit older, and so the axles were just a little bit narrower. And I got this thing for almost nothing. The axles were just a little bit narrower, and the rear axle was a weak one. If it was a year newer, they would have been just a little bit wider, and it would have had a stronger rear axle, and it would have had, I think, 538 gears, and this would have been 488s or 456s, I can't remember. And so I was hoping for the 538 or whatever geared axle, the wider and stronger, and that wasn't the case, and so I never did the swap. I didn't feel like it was worth it. The Luv had 410 gears originally, and I really wanted to go like 538s, but you can see it, that's it. What we've got here, and I wish it was not on the junk pile, I did not put it here. I didn't put either one of these on the junk pile, but this is actually I would say it's kind of rare. It's a Crosley. I'll have to put a link in the description about them, because I don't remember the model of what they were. It's a Crosley, and it's like a Jeepster or Truckster, or I think it was something like that. But it was like a little 2-wheel drive. I don't think they were street legal. It was more of like what you would consider like a mule, or a of its time, you know, like a Kawasaki mule, or like a little UTV yard truck type thing. And this thing has been here 50 years, probably 40 years at least, longer than I've been alive. It did run and drive at some point here, but not in my lifetime. I tried to get it working when I was a kid, and the motor was locked up, and so I never could do anything with it. But neat little thing. Of course, it's rusted out, and there's nothing usable on it anymore, but when I was a kid, it was pretty neat to mess with, try to get it running, and you know, it was just locked up, and it was too far gone when I was a kid, so it's way too far gone now, but still a pretty neat little vehicle. I had plans, you know, I thought it'd be cool some, you know, when it was in a little bit better shape than it is now, to put it on a different frame, but it's so narrow, you know, it's even narrower than like a little Suzuki, but like a Samurai. So you can see it through here a little bit. see that chrome bezel right there. It's just too far gone. So that's the vehicles. Aside from some old dirt bikes, I had people used to give me dirt bikes and stuff like that. By the time I got them, though, I didn't ever get one that wasn't seized up. I've got, if I remember right, there's 3 of them here, and all 3 of them, when I got them, the motors were seized, and so I never could do anything with them. And I tried freeing them up, but they were just, you know, it's stuff like that had sat outside with no spark plug, and so you know, can't do much with that. There's 2 there, Kawasaki, I think, and a little I think it's a Honda or a Yamaha moped that didn't even have a jug on it when I got it. And then I've got, I don't know if the frame's still here. I had a Honda, what was that? It was a Honda, it may have been like a CR125 or something like that, and or a CR100 something, and I actually pulled the motor out of it, and the motor is actually sitting in the barn. I pulled the motor out and to try to get another motor for it, and I never could find it. And I was doing all this stuff before internet, really, and it was harder to find parts, and I never could get it unstuck. Oh, there's part of it. You can see there's the frame of it laying right there. It was missing pieces when I got it, and like I said, the motor was stuck on it. You know, I don't know why people pull spark plugs on stuff and then just let them sit outside, but that seemed to be the case with all of them. I guess they lose spark, and for some reason they pulled the spark plug and never do anything with it and leave the spark plug out. But anyway, that's it for the vehicles. Nothing good anymore. You know, at one time or another, the 80 Chevy Luv was sitting out here, and it had been sitting out here for a few years. And, you know, I pulled it back out of the weeds and got it going again. It's now sitting under a covered shed on some other property that we have. But it's probably been sitting there a year now. And I need to, it wasn't running right when I parked it there. I think I've got some carburetor problems or fuel pump issues. It's either I think it's starving for fuel. So I either got an issue with something in the carburetor, or it's fuel pump's not pumping up like it should. So we need to do a video on it, get it back out. It's probably going to need a battery at this point. The battery on it was really weak to begin with, so I haven't really bothered with it. My wife's Sienna, we let it sit for a week, and the battery was dead on it, nothing running. So that'll probably be, I'll replace that battery, and that one will probably be good enough for that 80 Chevy Luv. So we may pull it back out or pull that battery out and go put it in the Luv, see if we can get that thing running again. Luckily it's running on a boat tank, and so we can dump any old gas out of that tank and start fresh on it and see if we can get it going. It also could have some water in the fuel. It would cause the kind of same issues it was having. So maybe when I get some time, we'll do a video on it, kind of an update, see if we can get it going again. That'd be a good cold start. So anyway, that's it, and yeah. Lots of I'd say it's lots of junk now, and the price of scrap is just so far down, it's not worth hauling anything off. So when it comes up, I'll have to be taking some stuff to the scrap yard and clear out some of this mess. So thanks for watching.